Good evening. Welcome to Left, Right and Centre. I'm Vishnu Shom. On the programme tonight, the India Alliance meets in Mumbai as it works to establish its presence as a serious national level player. They devise a structure, spokespersons, there's talk of a new logo. The big question, will there be a common minimum programme? Will there be a prime ministerial face? Can they overcome their huge differences? Also on the programme later on this evening, the new allegations against the Adani Group by a group reportedly funded by George Soros, somebody who targets democracies around the world. What are the implications of this report? Is there any substance, or are these deliberately timed allegations that raise issues that have been addressed and dealt with in courts in the past? Let's be fair about what exactly the implications of these allegations are. What is the truth over there? We'll bring you the details, and that is coming out later on this program. But there's some interesting news which is also coming in the last couple of hours. The government has called for a special session of Parliament to be held from the 18th to the 22nd of September. The Union Minister Prahalad Joshi posted on Twitter adding that there will be 5 sittings. He further said in the post, amid Amrit Kal, look forward to having a fruitful discussion and debate in Parliament. But let's face it, that one-liner has resulted essentially in a mystery because nobody really knows what is going to take place. My colleague Vasudha has been trying to find out, has these details.
The Centre has convened a special session of the Parliament for 5 days from September 18 to September 22. There is no official word on the agenda of the session yet, but it is interesting because it will be held just days after the much-awaited G20 Leaders Summit. The special session of the Parliament will be held a day after the Vishwakarma Yojana, the government scheme for a mega outreach to OBC communities, will be formally launched on September 17th. That also happens to be the Prime Minister's birthday. Now, what is a special session of the Parliament? There are 3 parliamentary sessions held in a year: budget, monsoon and winter sessions. A special session of the Parliament is dedicated to considering a specific bill or looking at an issue of public importance. In 2017, a special midnight session was convened for the passage of the GST, but that was a joint sitting of the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha. A special 6-day session was convened in 1997 to commemorate India's 50th year of independence. Parliamentary Affairs Minister Prahalad Joshi has said that this special session will have 5 sittings, and in the middle of Amrit Kal, the government is looking forward to having fruitful discussions. Remember, this is also the year that marks the end of Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, which is India's 75 years of freedom. Of course, some clarity on the agenda of this special session is expected next week. There is also socio-political context this time to the special session of the Parliament, as this is an election year, and the BJP at the centre is working towards fulfilling many of its promises made to see another term. Social engineering efforts are being made, and there is also talk about making elections tighter and not prolonged. On the last day of the session, monsoon session, 2 important bills, one that does away with the IPC and CRPC and brings in a new framework, and another one that makes fundamental changes in the way election commissioners are appointed, were introduced. There is also a lot of talk about the Uniform Civil Code, but government sources have made it clear that this bill will be brought in only after wide consultations. From the point of view of governance and political moves, this is high action time for political parties, particularly the BJP, which gives credence to the speculation that the special session of the Parliament this time could also see the introduction of key bills.
All right, well, let's just return now to the other big focus area that we're looking at, the India Alliance. Trying to get their act together. There is a very large meeting of all of these opposition parties. They're talking about a new logo. They're talking about a particular structure within the organization. But there are still a lot of unanswered questions going forward. To what extent will they represent a real challenge, a real threat to the BJP in 2024? My colleague Sohit Mishra joins us at this stage. So Sohit, seat sharing was the big concern because there are, let's face it, fairly significant internal differences. Has there been some sort of an agreement on when they're going to sort that out?
Well, that's exactly why all these leaders have gathered over here. They are saying that they'll try to bring up a formula based on the seat sharing, and this will be similar to what they have discussed in the previous 2 meetings of India. In fact, where I am present right now at the Grand Hyatt Hotel that is present behind me, Uddhav Thackeray did host a dinner for all these leaders who have reached over here. Today there was an informal discussion which they are currently doing as we speak over here on the same issue, and tomorrow from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. they are going to do a formal discussion on the very same issue. They are confident that yes, we will be able to ensure that we have we sort out all our differences. But yes, as you mentioned, there are still a lot of things which needs to be sorted out. Let's start from Maharashtra itself, Vishnu, where we know that there are 3 parties in the opposition: Shiv Sena, UBT, NCP of Sharad Pawar faction, as well as the Congress. Now Sharad Pawar says that there are no 2 factions in his party. But while he is present at this very India meeting behind me, Ajit Pawar is present at the Varsha Bungalow, the official residence of Chief Minister of Maharashtra Eknath Shinde, where they are planning what their future move would be. Another issue between Congress and Shiv Sena UBT is on the Savarkar issue, because time and again Rahul Gandhi has been speaking on Savarkar, and Uddhav Thackeray has been saying that he can't be or he won't be tolerating anything against Savarkar. In Delhi, it is Aam Aadmi Party against Congress. In Punjab, it is Congress versus Aam Aadmi Party once again. In Bengal, it is Congress versus TMC versus left. So there are a lot of such issues, and the leaders as well as the politicians who have reached over here, they are saying that in this meeting they are trying to sort it out. They are looking at the bigger picture. There will be a logo which will be released tomorrow, and what we have been told is that it will be released in several other languages as well, and they will also be finalizing the campaign. So yes, they are moving in that direction, but yes, still there are a lot of hurdles which needs to be cleared ahead of the 2024 elections.
All right, thanks so very much for joining us and sharing all of those details. Joining us now, Rohan Gupta of the Congress, Shazia Ilmi joins us as well. She's with the BJP, Amitabh Tiwari, political strategist and commentator, Sanjay Singh, the senior journalist. Thank you all very much for being with us. Shazia, perhaps the biggest issue with the India alliance, what the BJP has raised in the past, is that there are internal differences which are there, but they say within a finite period of time, and we are told apparently by even the 30th of September, seat sharing, which is perhaps their biggest concern, will be sorted out. Does this grouping represent a threat?
Well, the fact of the matter is that they have gotten together with the sole purpose of defeating Bharatiya Janata Party, and it is this Modi phobia which is the glue that brings them together. Their cadres are very well aware of their politics in the yesteryears. And also, if there is Nitish or Lalu coming together, or is Mamta and the left parties, or now Aam Aadmi Party and Congress, who are essentially have been the warring factions in their own limited world or states where they fought, they'll have to do all that sorting out. It is not a matter of so many PM candidates, alone, but what is the common minimum program? There are important questions to be asked as to, Mehbooba Mufti's presence. How do they feel about abrogation of Article 370? Would they want to revoke it? How do all of them feel about it? I mean, will the CMP address concerns such as those? And not just that, going further, what is the blueprint ahead for all of them? They're looking at, and of course, lastly, and the most contentious, more than even the PM face, would be seat sharing. I mean,
so they say 30th of September. So let's see what happens with that.
Yeah, so I wish them good luck. Okay. As far as BJP is concerned, we know what we are doing. There's complete clarity. There is no ambiguity whatsoever.
Okay. Let me just, Shazia, go across to Rohan Gupta as well, who joins me. As I come across to you, Rohan, I just want to play out a graphic. The states of conflict, as it were, because the argument which is raised is that there are huge differences. And let's face it, and I don't think you'll deny that in assembly elections there have been problems. West Bengal, Mamta versus the Congress versus the left. So that's a three-way fight over there among members of the India alliance. Delhi, the Aam Aadmi Party versus the Congress. A huge issue over there at the best of times. In Punjab, it's the Aam Aadmi Party versus the Congress as well. In Kerala, it is the Congress versus the left. At some levels in Uttar Pradesh, it's the Samajwadi Party versus the Congress Party. So how are you going to resolve all of these differences if you want to fight at the national level, Rohan?
I think a BJP spokesperson was saying that this alliance is to defeat BJP. No. This alliance is to save the country. This alliance is for saving the democracy.
No, but Rohan, respectfully, in order for you to do that, you need to defeat the BJP. Right?
I'm coming to it. I'm coming. Give me some time. This alliance's objective is very, very clear and large. That is for the people of the country. It is not just for the power purpose. You ask me the relevant questions. We need to understand that there is something called common minimum program. There are more than 28, now 28 parties are there. Obviously, we don't agree with each other on each and every point. But the common points what we agree is that we have to save democracy. We have to free this country from the inflation. We have to free this country from the negativity what BJP has spread. We have to free the country from the way the unemployment is increasing. So obviously these alliances come together for the common minimum program, for the issues concerning this country which BJP is avoiding. For BJP, power is important. But now the way India is progressing, it is making BJP nervous every day because we are very, very clear this is not a simple alliance. This is much more than a simple alliance. When we are coming together, we are having common agenda, we are having common logo. The way these parties have come together and glued, I think it has increased confidence of these parties also that yes, now they are confident that together we can fight BJP and we can save this country. The basic objective
Rohan,
here is to save the country.
No, but Rohan, one issue, Shazia raised it, just one basic issue, the entire issue of Article 370. The PDP, Mehbooba Mufti attended today. They want 370 they have issues with the way the government has dealt with the entire issue of status of Kashmir. Other political parties, including your own party, have a different position. How would you see through those differences?
I think if you have heard me properly, I've answered this because there is something called common minimum program. We don't have to agree with each and every issue. If you ask BJP, the parties who have joined BJP, the so-called NDA, where 38 parties are there, they don't know the names of the parties. You ask them the common agenda. My point is very simple that, okay, there are many issues we don't agree with each other. That's it. We don't touch that issue. But there is something called common minimum program. So we come together for this common minimum program for the issues which are concerning the people of this country.
Wait and see about,
we have come together.
Let's wait and see
a
little bit more about the common minimum program. I just wanted to go across to Amitabh Tiwari and also bring out 5 separate questions. These are the big questions. So question number 1, can the India alliance actually set a winning narrative? Now, Rohan seems to suggest that a common minimum program, bearing your differences, coming together to save the country, etc., is that narrative. Is it? But is the anti-Modi plank enough to win? Because despite what Rohan says over here, it's the anti-Modi plank, including in some of their assertions today, that appear to be what the India alliance is banking on. Therefore, and this is question number 3, can a negative campaign help India win? And I ask this because the BJP is banking on a positive campaign. Their campaign is very clear. This is what we've done, whether it's the economy, whether it's digitalization, whether it's GDP growth, whether it's infrastructure, etc., etc. Whereas they argue that is this a negative campaign that could help India, right? Or that India is working on. So will that work? Next question. Can the opposition and coalition iron out differences? We've addressed that somewhat. Will one-on-one contests help or hurt the opposition? And 39 versus 28, will vote consolidation actually end up working both ways? So let's talk about the negative campaign. Amitabh, would you call it a negative campaign? And if so, is it problematic for the India alliance?
Campaigns have to be of both kinds, correct? So negative as well as positive. In the past, parties have joined hands together against Indira Gandhi. So an anti-Indira Gandhi campaign or a narrative has worked. An anti-Rajiv campaign or a narrative has worked in the past. However, the fact that we are coming together to save the constitution may not be understood by the average voter. Because the clear intention which the BJP will be highlighting is that they have joined hands to defeat the Prime Minister Narendra Modi. So apart from a negative campaign, what is required is a positive campaign. While the opposition is highlighting the issues which are price rise, unemployment, economic distress, economy is a big thing now. They have to come up with solutions, and that is where the common minimum program kicks in. They have to come up with solutions and first of all communicate their solutions or their idea of India as to how it is different from the economic model of the BJP and let it reach to the masses, because in the past also in 2019 they had a good program of Nyay, but they were not able to communicate it it to the voters or to the lowest voter in the booth. So this is what. So it's a combination of negative plus positive campaign. It's a combination of providing solutions and gaining credibility among the voters that these solutions, when they have been power, why they were not able to offer these solutions or implement these solutions in the past when they were in power, and how they will be implementing these solutions now.
Sanjay, let me bring you one of the questions. Rohan, I'll come to you after that. Will a one-on-one contest help or hurt the opposition?
Vishnu, that's a very interesting question. The best example of one-on-one combination was Karnataka in 2019, UP in 2019, because in Karnataka, Congress and JDS were together and BJP was pitted against Karnataka. We know what happened in Karnataka. In UP, there was alliance between BSP, HP, and Congress had a tacit alliance. RLD was also part of it. We know what happened in UP. Congress got reduced to 1 seat. We retained 5 of the numbers that they had in 2015. And BSP got 10. From 0 to 10, it was actually BSP which gained. And if you look at it, SP and Congress lost. BJP, of course, lost a few seats. People were saying BJP will not cross 40, 30 marks. So BJP got 64 seats in UP. In Delhi, where another state, where you can see a possible combination of Congress and Aam Aadmi coming together, the tally of BJP was 56% in Delhi, vis-a-vis combined tally of Aam Aadmi Party.
Yes.
And combined numbers, if you calculate Aam Aadmi Party and Congress. The issue here is, if you talk about saving the country, saving democracy, these are two abstract things for any voter, any people on the street. They don't really understand how our country is in danger when people across the world is talking about India. Something India is...
Okay, will that actually resonate with people over here? That needs to be seen. Half a sec, let me just go back to Rohan.
Just one point, Vishnu, just one point.
Go ahead,
about
Sanjay.
Unemployment, which is made out to be a big issue against the center. Remember, we talk about federalism, and even you go to any state, employment generation is essentially part of center, more than center. It is the state which generates more employment than the center. In India posters, there are 11 chief ministers.
Sure.
So when you talk about unemployment, people are also going to ask as to, you have 11 chief ministers.
Okay, no, so Sanjay, I get the point you're trying to say about specific issues. But Rohan, answer that question. Number one, when? Can you give us a date? Will we finally see a common minimum program? And secondly, irrespective of the rhetoric, people want to see a prime ministerial face. When will we see that?
So Vishnu, first of all, answering one of the panelists' issue that there is no positive agenda, I don't agree with that. There is a clear-cut positive agenda, and we have delivered that in Karnataka as a Congress party. We have shown that in time-bound manner the promises given to people of the country can be delivered. We are not like BJP that even after 9 years we are questioning opposition parties.
Was very different from the agenda of the India Alliance. The India
absolutely
Alliance
not.
in Karnataka, you had a very positive agenda. Your agenda was very pro-development. Your agenda was a bunch of schemes which you're trying to implement right now. So it was not quite negative in that sense. Whereas over here, it is negative to the extent that you're criticizing Narendra Modi on a daily basis and the BJP and talking down their achievements.
Vishnu, we had 2 meetings of India. You will see that agenda coming very soon. We are launching our logo. There will be clear-cut time-bound agenda. Why I gave example of Karnataka, it is an example that how Congress party delivers, and the way Congress party has delivered its promises, same way India agenda will be decided, it will be time-bound manner. So the question is going to the people's issue against one face. We have seen one face of BJP who has made promises to the people of this country for last 9 years which are not delivered. Whether doubling income of the farmers, whether 5 trillion economy, giving house to every Indian, giving 50 lakhs to every Indian, giving 2 crore employments. Do you feel any of these promises are fulfilled? Is BJP spokesperson ready to debate that? No. They will tell them jumlas, and you ask these questions, they will ask questions to opposition party. We won't do that. We will go with the delivery model. We will show that, okay, these are the promises which we delivered in time-bound manner. Same way, India will have a clear-cut agenda of time-bound delivery and positivity in very short time.
Okay. Shazia, reply to those to what he's saying, that there will be a time-bound agenda, but I must also ask you this. Sanjay making a point that the BJP's positive agenda has, in a sense, got to do with how the country is looked upon around the world. People keep talking about it, and that's a fact. Our macroeconomic data is very sound, is very strong. Will that have an impact on the voter in Uttar Pradesh, or the voter in Bihar, or the voter in Orissa, who are used to a different set of requirements and needs?
I think our politics has been transformed radically. From the times I used to be a journalist and an anchor, and then when I was an activist till now, I think something big has happened. And India is really having a moment, if you ask me. Not in just terms of economy, but I keep hearing this thing being bandied about inflation. Now, if you look at the track record of BJP governments as opposed to UPA, you would realize that we've done remarkably better, and mostly inflation has been in check, has been under 5% as compared to all of Congress governments in all the years, where it's even gone from 7, 8 to even 12%. So that's one. So we will just resort to facts. And let's now go to Labharti, which is the beneficiary of these central welfare schemes, which have been done extremely well. And then there are just huge numbers. If you look at 14 crore toilets, you look at 80 crore Jan Dhan Yojana accounts, you look at 80 crore people getting the rations, 50 crore Jan Dhan Yojana accounts. If you look at these huge numbers, you realize that there is a huge, from across the spectrum of all the classes, people have benefited. And this includes people from all religions and all castes. So eventually that will be, development would be our slogan. So I think there's got to be more that this alliance offers, except for their anger and resentment with the BJP and with something concrete. Look at the economy now. Look where it is. Look how bad inflation could have been if you look at the global inflation and look where we are. So I think there is nothing really concrete, nothing solid ideologically. I think there are too many rough edges there. And as for the common minimum program, I think it'll be more minimum than common. I don't see them working around.
All right, I just want to quickly go back to, I wanted to go back to Amitabh for a moment. Will the Narendra Modi factor at this juncture be as strong in terms of national resonance as it was in the last election? Or do you believe that the BJP would be relying equally or almost equally on their achievements and what they have to show on the ground?
See, it is a combination of the Narendra Modi factor and the list of achievements of the BJP in the last 9 years. In 2019 elections, 32% BJP voters voted for the BJP because of Narendra Modi. And as per a recent C voter survey, it says that 44% of the voters are voting for BJP on account of Narendra Modi, which means that the Modi factor has almost seems to have increased.
Yes. And
we have seen in your CSDS ratings as well that the PM ratings of Modi is almost intact versus 2019, 43%.
But that data also showed Rahul Gandhi's popularity going up, which is by an impressive amount.
Correct. So the lead from 21% is now reduced to almost 16%. So now the Congress or the India Alliance hopes that the second Bharat Jodo Yatra gives some sort of a leeway or a boost to Rahul Gandhi's image, and he is able to close the gap, because common minimum program, seat distribution and leadership, these three are the key issues. And in a national election, the highest number of voters, 37%, vote on the basis of the prime ministerial face, 25% on local candidate, 22% on the party symbol, and only 3% on manifesto promises, as per the Access by India survey. So the leadership is going to be a key element, and whether India Alliance goes for a combined leadership or announces a PM candidate or not, BJP has already made it a Modi versus Rahul contest, if you have seen in the NCM, the
Absolutely.
no confidence motion debate which happened.
All right, look, fascinating conversation. We'll continue this, I'm sure, over and over the next couple of weeks. Thank you all very much for being with us. I would suspect that the name of the Prime Minister, a key issue that the India Alliance would need to sort out one way or the other, because without that in our country, it could be a huge issue for them. We're going to move on now to the other story of the day. The George Soros-backed OCCRP group has published a report on the Adani Group alleging insider trading via two foreign investors. Now, the Adani Group has rejected the report categorically. In a detailed response, the group has said that these are the same old lies which they've rejected, old allegations recycled in the report, and the OCCRP is funded by the billionaire George Soros, and that this is another attempt to revive the Hindenburg report, another attempt by short sellers to make a profit, that these short sellers are under a multi-agency probe. The Adani Group says that there is no irregularity found in the judicial and the Department of Revenue Income probe, that foreign investors already have been probed by SEBI, that the Supreme Court panel didn't find any violation of shareholding norms, and that the Supreme Court and SEBI probes just must be respected. Now, it's also important to know, who is behind the report and the timing. Now, who is behind the OCCRP report? OCCRP stands for the Organized Crime and Corruption Reporting Project. It's funded by George Soros. Soros has his Open Society foundations which have funded OCCRP. The timing is curious in all of this. The role of Soros needs to be looked at closely, since he's somebody who's targeted India in the recent past as well. He's been accused of funding attacks on elected governments. In fact, the Press Trust had preempted a report by this Soros-funded group just a couple of days back. So this is what I was referring to. The timing of the report is also suspect because and there are question marks in the timing. Why? Because there is a multi-agency probe against short sellers. The Enforcement Directorate has named 18 entities that profited after Hindenburg. A prominent banking entity among those who profited was named. The Enforcement Directorate is waiting for SEBI action before initiating a money laundering probe. The IT department is also probing if these entities profited from Hindenburg. Well, joining us on this part of this program, Ashwani Dubey, Senior Advocate of the Supreme Court, also Nalin Kohli, Senior Advocate in the Supreme Court, and also a BJP leader. But before we try and break down a lot of what I have sort of explained to you, let's listen in to what Rahul Gandhi had to say today at this big meet of India in Mumbai.
At the very least, a JPC should be allowed and a thorough investigation should take place. I don't understand why the Prime Minister is not forcing an investigation.
All right, I don't know why the Prime Minister is not forcing an investigation. Rahul Gandhi saying that. So let's just try and sort of address some of the queries which have been raised through the day by the Congress party. Nalin, let me come to you first. Now, as per the expert committee appointed by the Supreme Court, there is no evidence of any breach of minimum public shareholding requirements or of manipulation of stock prices. Now, if this is what has been looked at or decided by this expert committee, then how do we, or why should anybody necessarily discount this at this juncture?
It shouldn't be discounted, and it raises a pertinent question. What does the Congress party, and in particular Mr. Rahul Gandhi, really believe in? Do they believe in the law of the land? Do they believe the Honorable Supreme Court of India? Or do they believe in recycled misinformation being put out by vested interests and reports coming from overseas? It's a fundamental question. And one will wonder where the Congress party stands. Does it stand for India and Indian institutions? Or does it believe in the credibility of something that is published based on incorrect information, as seems to be available in the public domain, and based on perhaps vested interests against working against, in this case, a particular group?
Nalin, the primary allegation in all of this is of crony capitalism, of an alleged link between the Prime Minister and the Adani Group. How would you respond to this?
Well, the Congress party is really the fountainhead of crony capitalism, if at all in this country. You only have to study history. Mr. Rahul Gandhi evidently is not a student of history, and his advisors certainly don't seem to appreciate history and facts. That is crony capitalism. What has stopped is crony capitalism under Prime Minister Modi's government, because ruthlessly corruption has been weeded out. There is not a single allegation of favoring or corruption against anyone. And each false attempt that has been raised again and again by Rahul Gandhi ji and the Congress party has been repudiated, including by rule of law and no less than the Honorable Supreme Court of India.
Now, the other issue, Nalin, is of foreign interference groups linked to George Soros, allegedly, who allegedly interfere in matters of foreign countries, including India. Apparently, they've been involved in some aspect or perhaps in pushing out these reports. So ahead of G20, which is just a few days away, the state elections, the national elections next year, do you believe that the timing of these reports needs to be looked at?
For once, I will perhaps borrow from what the Congress party does. It raises questions on the timing. But this time they are guilty about not actually looking at it from the perspective of timing. The timing of this report is not just suspect, it's questionable. It's about the timing in terms of the G20, the timing in terms of the Congress party and Mr. Rahul Gandhi holding a convention in Mumbai, trying to establish that they are an alternative. A conglomeration of different political parties does not make them an alternative. There's clarity who's the leader, where the BJP is concerned, NDA is concerned, it's Narendra Modi ji. There's clarity of the agenda of governance. There's clarity about the performance. But on the other hand, there is a lack of clarity. It is personal interests versus, say, the politics of service. So there are things like this. And this report is 100% suspect in terms of its timing. There's no doubt about it. It almost seems as if it has been introduced to craft that a press conference could take place by Mr. Rahul Gandhi for him to have something to speak about.
What I find curious is, and it is a fact that an independent adjudicating authority, also an appellate tribunal, they both confirmed that there was no over-invoicing and that these transactions were in accordance with applicable law. And there was a finality in just a few months back in March when the Supreme Court did rule in favor of the Adani Group. So this is, as I understand it, when I've gone through the allegations closely, essentially raking up a matter which has been dealt with legally.
That's why it's critical to say Mr. Rahul Gandhi and the Congress party are running down Indian institutions and the institutional framework. And that's a fair question to ask, what you've asked, Vishnu. Additionally, Mr. Rahul Gandhi and the Congress party are now guilty, in a sense, figuratively speaking, of actually pandering to foreign interests. So earlier, Mrs. Indira Gandhi used to always say there's a foreign conspiracy. Perhaps Mr. Rahul Gandhi only looks back to his grandmother and understand the lesson that she left behind. They only have to go back to the history of what the Congress party through the 70s and 80s used to say. But Mr. Rahul Gandhi, who seems to have been, since we don't have details of his educational qualifications and institutes of study, seems to have spent time abroad. Now one would wonder whether he went abroad to actually study or perhaps has learned things that go against India's interests.
Isn't the larger issue about how the Enforcement Directorate has found that 18 companies, including foreign portfolio investors, foreign institutional investors in tax havens, that these people were top beneficiaries from short selling Adani Group company shares before the Hindenburg report actually came out, and therefore isn't this more significantly about how this resulted in a crash in the market which affected millions of investors, shareholder money being eroded, evaporating? Isn't that what we should be looking at?
And I certainly hope that the investigative agencies hold people responsible. And I certainly hope that somebody raises it in a court of law. Because at the end of the day, who is George Soros? George Soros is an individual. He's a businessman. He's an investor. And he has crafted what seems to be from media. I don't know him personally. I don't seek to know him personally either. He seems to have crafted this so-called position as if he's fighting for democracy. But he makes money by investing, and there seems to be, what the media indicates, a pattern to this kind of volatility that seems to help him in the share market or in investments. So one would now, the answer would have to lie with Mr. Rahul Gandhi and those who are using Mr. Soros's this agenda to further their own political agenda. Is there a connect? Is there some kind of meeting of objectives? Because at the end of the day, when the market crashes, Indian citizens suffer. Indian capitalism suffers. That's not crony capitalism. That is Indian capitalism. And this is Indian capitalism that is going abroad and actually taking over global business interests. So instead of us seeing an outward-looking India, that is now Indian multinationals, somewhere or the other, one would feel that foreign multinational interests by vested investor groups like perhaps Mr. George Soros and his company are the beneficiaries of this kind of information that is not based on fact.
All right, Nalin, thanks very much for being with us. I'm now joined by Ashwini Dubey. You've been waiting very patiently, Mr. Dubey. Thanks once again for being with us. Is it not strange that neither India's stock market regulator or, for that matter, a high-level expert committee which was appointed by the Supreme Court were able to prove that some foreign owners of Adani stocks are fronts or alleged fronts for the majority owners? In other words, we've had both of these institutions, these bodies, our stock market regulator, also this high-level expert committee, try to look for this evidence. They've not been able to do this at all. Is the entire system fixed, as some would allege, or do we need to actually trust at least some elements of our system and our judicial process?
Just see, before few weeks back, one report came, published in a newspaper on a foreign soil. On the basis of that, a huge cry started in the country. Matter reached to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court, leaving all the judicial work, appointed a committee led by a former Supreme Court Justice A.M. Sapre, along with other persons. That committee did not find any fault. Our agency says that there is no fault, but still, on the basis of a report, that report which was published in a foreign soil, with the people who are with the vested interest, on the basis of that, the constitutional machineries are being misused. Point one. Point two, whom will you believe? In our agencies which are working within the constitutional framework, agencies which are amenable to the country's judicial authorities, agencies which are fairly submitting report and court finding those reports to be correct, or a newspaper report published by certain people who are against the economic growth of the country, who does not want India to become an economically strong. Third, in Rafale case, you see what has happened. In Rafale case too, the report was published in France by certain people. Based on that, you have also discussed, I have also discussed what Supreme Court says. Nothing wrong has happened. In Hindenburg, you see, in Pegasus, you see, on each and every time you find that a report has been published on the basis of this investors' money, which have been invested in a company's account. That investors' money should go and company should, the company which has given appointment to so many people, company who is working for the growth of the country. Against that, these people are trying to make the comments which are biased, and that too which have been published in newspaper on a vested interest.
No, so let's talk a little bit more about this. Groups linked to George Soros, notorious for interfering in the matters of various countries. It has been alleged that he's been pushing these groups. Is the timing curious ahead of elections and G20?
The timing is important. See, on 7th, 8th, 9th September, all the country heads are visiting this in India. It is such a glorious moment at this point of time, selecting outrage, selectively making allegations, and also, you see, tomorrow or day after tomorrow, if that matter is if not mentioned in the Supreme Court, I have wondered, it will be mentioned by certain people who are acting at the behest of those who are against the economic instability of this country. The misuse and abuse, all three things are there. When it comes to the use, then the constitutional machineries can be, the constitutional methods can be invoked. But when with the certain biased allegations, with the people who are with the vested interest comes and you misuse and abuse the machineries, then there is a question. Justice Sapre committee did not find any wrong earlier. He did not find any wrong. So ultimately, we have to believe our agencies. What has happened in Pegasus? In Pegasus also, when Justice Ravindran committee said that you submit your mobile phones, nobody came forward and submitted mobile for forensic examination. Ultimately, what happened there?
Sure,
Hindenburg
Mr. Dubey,
also.
Let me
happened?
ask you this. Let me ask you this. The Adani Group is clear that the allegations are on the basis of closed cases. From a decade ago, the Directorate of Revenue Intelligence had probed these allegations of over-invoicing, transfer of funds, etc., etc. So it's not just Hindenburg and these allegations now. It's been looked at many, many years back. So again, is this not reopening something which has been investigated and ruled on?
That has happened in Rafales also. Supreme Court 3 judges bench has said that there is no irregularity so that the price fixation is concerned. There is no irregularity so the purchase is concerned. But despite that, those issues were read. Similarly, the same thing in a closed case is being by the same people. Those, the allegations of whom have been found to be fake. And the committee has said that the price rise was justified here also. Whereas the Justice A.M. Sapre's committee, the report has been submitted. Supreme Court has also not found any flaw in that. So at the closed case, which is being opened at a time when country is going to host the G20 delegation.
All right. Thanks very much, Ashwini Dubey, for joining us.